Good evening and welcome into the 37th edition of the Cleveland Sports Realm. My name is Jerome. His name's Kevin. His name over there is Derek. We are ready to begin. And Kevin, we are recording this on Tuesday for a little housekeeping. But that's okay this week because we don't have any Guardians game we're going to be missing tomorrow. All-Star game is tonight as we record, but should be pretty up to date and ready to roll and pretty relevant on Thursday.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, kind of to your point, Jerome, there's not a lot of live Cleveland sports that are going on, this week, like you said, with the All-Star game. Obviously, Cavs are still in the off-season, and Browns as well in the off-season, still kind of a little bit gearing up for the preseason starting next month, believe it or not.
Right. We have training camp coming around in a couple of weeks here, and there is one rookie who remains unsigned, and now actually spent the weekend in jail, too. That is Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to begin tonight. Second straight year, according to you, that the second-round pick has been suspended before their career even began for domestic violence.
And they were both Ohio State Buckeyes.
I knew you were going to have to put that in there. I knew that was coming. Anywho, Quinshon Judkins had arrived at an airport in Florida with the girl. They were dating June of 24 to December. They had broken up and recently got back together this June. Well, it didn't last long. According to police reports, a disputed baggage claim spilled over to the rental car where he closed fist hit her in the face, supposedly. And the details a little graphic there, but I want to make sure that our listening audience does know what was happening. And then supposedly tried to hit her again before she called his mom, and the authorities were called, and Judkins did spend that night in jail. So that's the details. Not a good look at all before you ever play a snap of preseason or regular season for the Browns, especially when you haven't signed yet.
Yeah.
Not a good look at all. Disappointing. This is supposed to be the guy who replaces Nick Chubb. I mean, disappointing because you never want to see your players get in legal trouble. Also, I personally, and I think this is not just a me stance, it's a show stance, have zero tolerance for domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes without saying. And I think, transitioning more so to the football side of things when it comes to this, Andrew Berry's track record now, and I'm not going to say, because you can never predict incidences like this, but you've now, those glory days of the Browns that we looked at that started, 7 years ago with the Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb Browns, you've now replaced the two foundational pieces of Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb with Deshaun Watson and Quinshon Judkins. So not very good when you're talking about character, the character that we started with to the character that we have now representing this football team. And I don't want to say what Quinshon Judkins did when he was at Ole Miss and at Ohio State would have predicted an incident like this, but this is kind of why I was hesitant regarding him before in the pre-draft process. If you remember, after his, second year at Ole Miss, he held out for more money, wanted more NIL money. It was all about him. Ohio State obviously gave it to him. But even then, it's one of those things in that instance where, okay, you're going to make something about yourself. You're going to kind of have this little cloud hanging over you that doesn't really have to be over you. And I always felt like there was kind of a little bit of drama that came with him just because of that. And like I said, it's not something that you can predict that it's going to escalate to a domestic violence case, because holding out for more money and closed fist hitting your girlfriend or hitting a woman in general are completely different things. And obviously that's completely unacceptable. But it's just very frustrating. The second straight year that one of our very highly touted draft picks in the first two rounds, I mean, last year it was our first pick in general, because we didn't have a first rounder. It was our first pick in general that ended up getting suspended. I'm sure Quinshon Judkins will face a suspension as well. And, I feel like we've heard about this Browns team, and this can even go back to the John Dorsey era of Browns, and even before then, of, we always put character first and whatever it is. And we like to give people second chances and stuff. When is that going to stop? Because you've given Antonio Callaway a second chance. You've given the Josh Gordons of the world second chances. The Kellen Winslows, the Johnny Manziels, the now Quinshon Judkins, the Michael Halls. When is this going to stop and we're going to actually start taking character into consideration when we draft players instead of just saying, hey, they're talented and we'll figure it out? It's frustrating and it's very obnoxious.
Yeah, I think you make some valid points there. The Browns have now, I when we were growing up, the joke was always, if you want to find the Cincinnati Bengals roster, go to your local county jail, and that's turned into the Browns, man.
Yeah, it has.
They've had a lot of issues off the field, and like you said, nothing is acceptable. Some to me are a little more acceptable than others. Like Josh Gordon smoking weed all the time, fine, that's one thing. And when you start talking about domestic violence and hitting women, I got zero tolerance for that. You want to smoke a joint, that's one thing, man. You
Right.
start beating up women and physically assaulting them. Nobody has tolerance for that, nor should the Browns. But they kind of do, it seems.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like they do. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome, but I think Andrew Berry was the same person, and I didn't mention him earlier in kind of the list of Browns players over the last 15, 20 years even that can fall into this category. But I believe it was Andrew Berry that drafted Perion Winfrey as well.
Yeah, another one with a lot of problems.
Another one that a year later was chasing, if I remember correctly, the story was that he was basically chasing a woman on the street with a gun.
Yeah, I mean, and then, it all goes back to, this has been a recurring problem. This is not the first time that we're reading a Browns player in the police blotter,
Right.
It's just time and time again. And, I mean, you kind of set a precedent when you traded for someone who had multiple sexual assaults lingering. And
20 to 30 cases when you traded
and that
for
was
him.
okay. And you pushed all that aside.
If you remember, our owner at the time said in his initial, I don't think it was the initial press conference, but the first press conference, he said, you guys got to remember, we're talking about a very talented football player here. Again, you're putting talent before the character, and what transitions more? I would almost say that the character does, because the character is going to be what affects that locker room. Jarvis Landry, for instance, a very high character player, not the best receiver on the planet, but he almost, I'm not going to say single-handedly, because there were a lot of people that were involved there, but he was probably the most influential on that locker room in 2018 to actually try to get the ball rolling in this city when it came to football being played.
Yeah, he absolutely changed the culture. I would credit him at the top of the list, man. He was a big reason the culture changed, and now the culture's changed again for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you do, Jerome? I'm asking you specifically. What would you do with Quinshon Judkins right now? I mean, because this is a player. If you remember, he's one of the draft picks that was involved in the Travis Hunter deal.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because he doesn't have a contract right now, so that's interesting. And now I don't think the Browns are going to be in any rush to get it done. I think you probably maybe put him on a reserve suspended type of list right now, but I don't know if you can put him there without a contract.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think right now, first and foremost, he needs to handle his legal business, and
yeah, of course,
and the Browns need to let that play out, and then football needs to all come second. And to your point, as a as a second round rookie, you basically need to go to him and say, look, this is a zero tolerance policy. If something like this happens again, you're done, you're cut. You gotta start putting your foot down with these guys, because these guys probably look here. Maybe some of these players come here and think, well, I could get away with it. It's Cleveland. They're all in the local jail anyway. And you don't want that to be like I said, we've turned into the modern day Bengals, and you don't want that cloud hanging over your organization.
Right, and I think the instant karma here for Quinshon Judkins, I do think at some point a contract's going to be resolved for him. He's probably going to be suspended, I would guess 5 or 6 games as a result of this, honestly. I think the funny part about this when it comes to him is that he was holding out of his contract for more guaranteed money, and this basically assures that he's going to get less guaranteed money than the original offer was. So,
well, I would think if you're the Browns now, he was drafted 35th. You probably give him the lowest possible slot you can.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, because what leverage does he have anymore?
Zero.
He's got zero.
Out the window.
Yeah, well, if you don't sign, you're basically out of the league almost.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I think
I'll be interested to see how it plays out, though, in the stance, because if you remember when the whole Kareem Hunt thing happened in Kansas City, That's
another one we forgot to mention in the laundry list of Browns domestic violence cases.
Yeah, the only team that gave him a shot. was the Browns, of course. But it was a little bit over halfway into his second year, and he was still lighting it up for Kansas City. And then that came out, and before their playoff run even started, they just cut him. They didn't want to deal with it anymore. One incident, and he was a Pro Bowler the previous year, and I want to say broke like the rookie rushing record or something like. It was a historic rookie season that he had. And so, a little bit over halfway into his second year, one thing comes out about him in a domestic violence incident, and they just cut him. They got rid of him, and they're like, that's the thing. That's the difference between the Chiefs and the Browns, and just those types of organizations in general. The Chiefs know, and they're confident in their ability to find talent anywhere and be able to use that talent. That if you're going to be an absolute jackass, get out of here. We don't even want you in the locker room.
Right, and the problem with the Browns is you chose not to bring back Nick Chubb. I hate to say this. It sounds like I'm dismissing the case and making light of it. I'm not doing that at all. I want to put that out there first and foremost. But the Browns need him now.
Yeah.
They need him badly.
Yeah, they do. I mean, because what you're going into the season right now, RB1 is probably, you're not going to do Dylan Sampson. It's probably Jerome Ford. And Dylan Sampson, I do think, is going to get a heavy workload. But right now, RB1 for basically the third year in a row almost is Jerome Ford.
And I guess Pierre Strong will get a chance to hang around now.
Yeah, you would think. He would have to.
You're going to need another running back. So, yeah, no, it's a mess. And Quinshon put the Browns in a real bad spot. And the whole thing's unfortunate, Kevin.
Yeah, it is, and I really don't know where the Browns go from here with him. It's going to be interesting. I do, if I were to guess though, I'm saying he's suspended, like I mentioned earlier, 5 to 6 games, back a little bit before halfway through the season, and obviously his contract probably gets figured out, and the Browns go from there. And to what you were saying about 5 minutes ago, I think it is going to be one of those things where if anything like this happens again, you're cut and we're done with you.
Well, you also look at, and I know you use the Chiefs as an organization with Kareem Hunt, but the Chiefs also weren't necessarily the model citizens, and neither was the league in the way they all handled Tyreek Hill's multiple domestic violence issues. He seems to always get out of it. And
I guess that's true, yeah.
And from a woman's point of view, you wonder why some women say the NFL doesn't take domestic violence seriously. Look at Tyreek Hill, again, prime example. And so that's why it's really hard to say what the league's going to do with the situation, because we've seen the league come down on some guys, appropriately for domestic violence, and other guys are off scot-free. So who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, seriously. And I think it's, if we go back to my pre-draft analysis of Quinshon Judkins, kind of to what you were saying earlier, Jerome, like I don't want to make light out of the situation at all. But, my comparison for him was a Joe Mixon, Kareem Hunt hybrid. And both of them had domestic violence incidents.
Joe Mixon's another one who really I don't remember being given a harsh punishment or.
Yeah, I don't. And to what you were saying earlier, it was the Bengals that drafted him.
Right. So, again, looking at this from our point of view, who the hell knows what's going to happen, because the league doesn't take this thing seriously. No,
they pick and choose.
Yes. They pick and choose who's punished and who's not. In my opinion, I know from a football point of view, people don't like this, but that should come secondary. If you hit a woman, you should be suspended X amount of games across the board. They should have instead they have this review and this committee and that. And, I'm not saying it's for sure, but there's a lot of times guys are probably paid off, who are making these decisions. And, it's really sad because, again, you wonder from the women's point of view, they say the league doesn't take it seriously. And it's hard to challenge women who throw that out there and say that about the National Football League.
Well, if you remember in 2022, the NFL tried to almost do like a re-imaging of themselves when it came to these instances, because when they brought all of those cases and all those allegations, I should say, to Sue L. Robinson, who was in charge of the Deshaun Watson case, she basically had said, and her recommendation was to only suspend him 6 games. And it was because there had never been a harsher punishment than that in similar instances. Similar, I say in quotes, because I don't think we've ever seen that many cases for one person. But anyways, her recommendation was 6 games to keep it consistent, and the NFL basically told her, yeah, we're not doing that. We're going for 11. And they got 11. So they tried to do like a re-imaging of themselves when it came to that. But to what you're saying, like, it was a woman judge who had said you have set the precedent that it should be less than half a season.
Right. And excuse me, I'm a little
hoarse.
Yeah, a little hoarse this evening. But I apologize for those of you who have to listen to my hoarse voice. But sorry. Anyhow, yeah, no, you bring a valid point to the table, and the league has made light of this many times. So, I could see Quinshon Judkins getting like 3 games. That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I think because he's a rookie, I think it's going to be a little bit more severe. Like, I think Michael Hall, I want to say his was 5 or 6 games last year. So I'm going to say around the same. I'm going to actually look that up, I think, because I don't want to be giving misinformation here.
Right.
But I do think it was 5 or 6 games. 1 second here. Suspended 5 games for violating conduct policy. So that was last year.
So we'll see what happens. I guess the only way you could maybe defend the NFL is each case is different,
Yeah, and I do think the NFL has a point when it comes to that, because kind of going back to the Deshaun thing.
One of these things is not like the other. Correct.
Like if Deshaun Watson, who had 25 plus cases at the time, and then more came out after, and then you've got one incident. Not that the one incident's not light, for lack of a better term, but you have one incident compared to 25 plus. Why would they both get 6 games?
Right. Right.
So, I agree with the NFL in that standpoint of when they actually brought the hammer down and gave Deshaun over half the year of a suspension.
Right, and I think they want to do 12, but the league always, remember, they care about themselves and money more than anything. So they were going to do 12, in my opinion, and then they decided do the random number of 11 because they wanted his first game to be against Houston. They liked that storyline
in
too
Houston.
Much. They liked it way too much.
And then it was weird, not to get completely sidetracked, but wasn't it weird that like all of his accusers were in attendance for that game?
Yeah.
It was really
Tony
weird.
Busby bought all of them a suite.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre. Like, why would you want to show up and I don't know.
Yeah.
That was that whole saga with him was just bizarre. I mean, it's still kind of ongoing, at least from the Browns' perspective. But during that whole 1.5 to 2 year span of those allegations coming out, maybe even like a 3 year span, because I want to say they started in late 2020, early 2021. So probably a good 2 full years of those allegations coming out.
Right. Oh yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with Judkins. I mean, again, the Browns kind of need him probably more than, well, they both need each other equally a lot right now, I would say.
Yeah, I mean the Browns need a bell cow. Quinshon Judkins needs his payday and needs his money and needs to stay in the league. I mean, just going back to kind of pre-draft real quick, God, do I wish they would have just taken Travion Henderson, man. I mean, he's been a stand-up guy. Like, if every single interview he's had, like the way he plays in the football field too. Like, I just thought it was such a dream scenario to get Travion Henderson, and still a little bit disappointed in it. And it was one of those things where I wasn't.
I like Judkins better as a pro back. I've kind of been consistent with that.
You have, and I disagree with it. Although I will say, like, I wasn't upset when they drafted Quinshon. I was just disappointed that it wasn't Travion. But yeah,
we'll see what happens. How this case keeps out. We'll obviously comment on it when we see anything else come out at future times, and once the obviously pending legal investigation is complete.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk some baseball. We're talking Guardians here. Would you like to start with the draft? I know you want to start with anything that has to do with the draft, so go ahead, Kevin.
No, so I mean, I really only know. I mean, obviously, there's 20 rounds in the MLB draft. I think we should probably just primarily focus on their first rounder, the biggest name, Jace Laviolette, corner outfielder from Texas A&M. I think this is funny because this is the second outfielder in 3 years that they've drafted. First name rhymes with ace, and last name, the first 3 letters has 2 capital letters. I just think it's funny, the Chase DeLauder correlation there. Corner outfielder, both power hitters, and names relatively similar. And honestly, I think they have a pretty similar scouting profile. I saw, bigger guys, both supposed to hit for power, both have good swing rates. I want to say don't swing and miss a lot. So maybe in 3 years, Jerome will be discussing an episode on a podcast about how they should be calling them up, but they're not. They're being cheap and not doing it.
Yeah, there's a good chance that'll be the case. Chase Laviolette, they took 27th overall. like you say, a lot of people like the profile. I did hear a couple skeptics and critics say the batting stance is too stiff and up and down. So we'll see that. I was watching some MLB Network in preparation for this episode tonight with you, so we knew, because I'm not going to pretend and say that I'm a huge college baseball fan, and I watch it a lot. So, I did take a look and try to educate myself a little bit here, and a lot of power in that bat. That's what a lot of people said. They need power.
Yep.
So you can understand why they made the pick. And, actually a better his 2024 college season seems to be a lot better than his 25. He dropped off a little bit, according to a lot of prospect evaluators and scouts. And what I did like, I don't know, you could call it, on one side you want to say it's stupid, and on one side you want to say it's good mental toughness, depending on which way you look at it. Kid broke his hand in the SEC tournament and played the very next day. So
yeah, I actually think that's really cool.
Yeah. I thought it was cool too. Now, we know the Guardians are the safest organization around, so if he breaks his hand, that is absolutely not going to be the case at any of their minor league affiliates if that would take place. But no, I like the profile. I like the bat. We'll see, baseball's really hard to evaluate drafts. I mean, football, you usually can do it within 16 months to 2 years. Baseball, a lot of times you can't really evaluate how a draft went for a half decade sometimes.
Yeah, I'm about to say 4 to 5 years probably, yeah. And the thing that honestly intrigues me a lot too about Laviolette is that he came into the year, like you were saying, he had a much better 2024 than 2025, but when he came into this year, they were saying that he was projected to be a top 5 pick, maybe even in the mix to go number 1 overall, depending on how the year went. And obviously that wasn't the case. I want to say we drafted him at pick 27. Might have been 26 through 28. Okay. So obviously he almost fell out of the first round entirely. But yeah, happy to get a guy of just that magnitude of. I like the high risk, high reward plays in baseball, just because if you hit on that high reward, like it can be franchise changing. So I like the high risk, high reward plays, especially when you have 20 shots to draft somebody. Like, go high risk, high reward just with every pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't know how much this actually translates. The Guardians seem to be very much, again, they're a safe organization, so this doesn't surprise you. They seem very much lately in their drafts to be into college players, not many out of high school. And what do you get with college players? A little bit more further along in their development. Obviously, they've played at a higher level. They won't be in the minor leagues as long unless you're Chase the Lauder. So anyway, I don't know. That's their organizational philosophy right now. I do appreciate that they as an organization recognize the need for hitting, and they've kind of tried to draft more hitting lately, it seems. So they continue that philosophy again this year. We'll see what happens, obviously. But right now, I mean, I like the pick from what I've evaluated, and people who know a lot more about it, who I trust, they seem to like the pick too. So it's really hard to criticize anything. But again, there's a good chance with their recent track record of not being great as a front office, we could be criticizing it down the road. But as of right now, it's a position of need in the sense of outfield, and a position of need in the sense of power. So 2 days after they make the pick, it's really hard for me to sit here and rip them, and I'm not going to do that tonight. Yeah,
I'm not going to either. The only thing I'm going to voice a little bit of a concern about is that this organization hasn't shown the ability to develop hitting in 10 years probably?
Long time.
It's been a while since they've been able to do it. So while I'm happy they addressed the hitting, I'm still concerned with how our organization's going to go about that. Because the recent history would tell you that he's not going to develop very well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. How could one sit here and say he's going to be a stud when, I mean, look how many guys we heard were going to be studs that just simply aren't. George Valera has never played a major league game. We've been hearing about him for years.
Yeah, was it Carson Tucker?
They're not even in the organization anymore.
Yeah, I think he was. I want to say he was in the teens too when they picked him. And,
yeah.
Which we still had Lindor at the time. I'll never forget, because I believe I was listening to 92.3 at the time, and they had announced the Carson Tucker pick, and they're like, "Oh, here's the Lindor replacement." and then we never saw him in the majors at
I
all.
don't think Carson Tucker ever made it past Lake County.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
No.
Big time blunder.
So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure. For
All
sure,
right.
and a few years away from seeing him, obviously.
Yeah, and we're not going to go super deep into the draft here because, to Kevin's point, the Browns draft, there's only 7 rounds, and some people know everything. Like baseball, you get past that first and second round, people are like, who's that guy?
Yeah, it's almost like the NBA draft, but in a different sense, where the NBA, like after the first 8 to 10 picks, like a lot of times it's like, all right, they're just drafting these random players from random schools and see
Random
if they pan out.
countries.
Yeah, and then you get the steals of the drafts, like the Tyrese Proctors that the Cavs got in the second round.
Yeah, hopefully that comes to fruition. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's continue about the Guardians. We sat here and trashed them the last 2 episodes, and they have, by the grace of divine intervention, won 6 out of 7. And listen, I'm not going to go nuts and hoot and holler about the White Sox series. The White Sox are 31-62. Okay, they stink. They're awful. They're an abomination of an organization.
You had to win that series.
I'm not going to praise the Guardians by any means for what they did.
Yeah.
Where my praise will come in, let's give it to them by, again, they swept the Houston Astros.
In Houston. And I think
swept the Houston Astros.
I think the coolest part about that is, we went into that series as, I don't even know if you would say arguably, I would almost say definitively, the coldest team in baseball. And the Astros were the hottest team in baseball.
Coming off a sweep against the Dodgers.
It genuinely looked like it was like, okay, like we're probably gonna get, maybe we squeak out one against the Stros, but definitely not winning the series. You're just hoping that we don't get swept, and we end up sweeping them. I thought it was huge for this team's morale, and obviously they carried that over into Chicago. It took 3 out of 4 against them, and now, I mean, have you kind of switched your tune on this organization right now on how that this year could play out? Because this was taking 6 out of 7 before the All-Star break was not something I had on my bingo card.
0 chance, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to lose 2 out of 3 in Houston, probably get swept. The one thing that excited me about the Houston series was they scored runs against good pitching. Now, Chicago, I mean, I'm not going to sit here. Look who they're throwing on the mound.
Yeah.
You should have scored 6 runs. Like they scored runs every game that series. More importantly, what I did like about the Chicago series was Carlos Santana seemed to get it going again. And even more so, I'm not going to miss any chance to highlight Carlos Santana on a show. You know that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to let you go.
Carlos Santana had a good series. But even more than that, Kyle Manzardo, who his power had won a miss for a couple of weeks there, 2 home runs in that White Sox series. So that was good to see, too.
Yeah, and wasn't it cool? I just thought the tweet was so cool from the Guardians organization of Kyle Manzardo has hit a 3-run home run off of Aaron Savali. Looking at that trade 2 years later, I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah, we've criticized them and ripped them up and down. And again, rightly so. None of that stuff that we said, I'm taking back. None of it.
Yeah.
But if you want to look for a trade they won recently, I believe that one they have won. Manzardo still has plenty of room to grow and get better. Aaron Savali requested a trade from the Brewers and now plays for the second worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at a win, I'm going to say the Kyle Manzardo for Aaron Savali swap is a win for the Guardians.
I would even say if Kyle Manzardo is a negative in the field for the remainder of his career, because, I mean, for the first 2 years he has been a negative. If he continues to be, I still think we won the deal. I think just if he becomes an average defender, I think we smoked that deal.
I completely agree. And again, look at the simple fact of, Savali has been with the Rays, then got traded to the Brewers, and then decided he was too good to start for the, be in the bullpen for the Brewers.
Yeah.
And the Brewers said, F you, we're going to send you to baseball Siberia. Remember when players used to get traded to the Browns? Well, they have to go to football Siberia. Getting traded to the Rockies or the White Sox is baseball's version of Siberia right now.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And I can even remember going back, and we're talking about like late 2000s, maybe early 2010s, talking about the NBA. It used to be Charlotte when they were the Bobcats. It was like, oh, no, we're going to send your ass to Charlotte, basically, then.
Basketball
if that's
Siberia.
Yeah, it used to be, yeah.
Absolutely. Charlotte could be argued to be that again.
Yeah, they could. Well, it's funny if you remember, like on past episodes, typically the first team I go to is the Charlotte Hornets if I go to rip a team. And I've noticed that I do that, and it shouldn't be because there's other teams that should be in the mix there. But the first one I think of every time is just the Hornets. I mean, they've really never been able to figure it out.
Mine's been the Wizards lately.
Yeah, which rightfully so. The Wizards have been a horrible organization the last 5 years.
So, one other thing on the Guardians, like we said, the Houston thing really did impress us. The White Sox, we're not going to sit here and throw rose petals and have a parade for you. We're just telling you, good, you did what you were supposed to. You kind of gave yourselves a chance. As we sit here tonight, you're 4.5 out of the wild card. The division's long over, in my opinion, Kevin. You're 14.5 back at fourth place. I don't see that happening. But the schedule does come back kind of light for you. If you want a chance to make a little noise and make hay while the sun shines, as they say, this is your chance. You come off the Athletics this weekend, and I believe the Rockies are coming up too. And so, again, they're not completely out of it.
No,
but
they're still right in the thick of it.
They are hanging on by a few threads, and all you did this week by winning 6 out of 7 because you were so putrid is you just added a couple threads to hang on by, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say that. I might say that about I mean, the division's kind of out of the question right now. But again, this is what, I've continuously said is that try to not get too low, try to not get too high when it comes to an MLB season. And obviously, that 10-game losing streak, after, I want to say game 6 is kind of when I started being like, okay, like they got to start winning a couple games. Then they lost 4 more, and then I actually finally started to panic a little bit about where the season was headed. And then, they take 6 out of 7. Never get too low, never get too high. They are going to have to make some changes, though, after this, after the All-Star break and, coming up to the trade deadline, whether it's calling some guys up or moving for some pieces, because I don't see this team as it's constructed right now being able to – they might be able to squeak into the playoffs, maybe, but, I don't think they'd make any noise once they got there.
No. And again, it's hard to evaluate because you played such an awful team. The one thing we can evaluate in a positive light is going to Houston and sweeping the Astros. And,
yeah.
I mean, once again, it was good to see the likes of Carlos Santana step back up and Kyle Manzardo step back up. And Angel Martinez, I'll be remiss if I didn't point out, he had an awesome week over that 6 out of 7 stretch.
One of the streakiest players in baseball.
But, again, who was the engine led by? Once again, and if he doesn't hit, it just gives them zero chance. He had a phenomenal week and won American League Player of the Week for the umpteenth time. So, and that's Jose, of course, we're talking about.
Goes without saying.
And I think, I just, again, still, the pressure on him is so immensely great. It's hard to, if he's not firing on all cylinders, they have zero shot.
Yeah, it's him and Quan. And then whatever you get from the other guys, like we've said before with Kyle Manzardo, I've always loved his approach at the plate. I feel like he hits a lot of line drive outs, and occasionally he'll get caught looking here or there, which is kind of expected with those younger players. But I love the foundational piece of Kyle Manzardo. To be a 1 through 5. I shouldn't say 1 through 5, but bat him 2, 4, 5, or 6. Hopefully in a couple of years that can actually be a mainstay in this lineup. He becomes a little bit more consistent at the plate, and then however these young guys end up developing, we still don't really know what Angel Martinez's long-term outlook is for this team. We don't know if
he's just so peak and valley, as you pointed out.
Yeah, and obviously Bazana is going to be the long-term play at second, you would think. Angel, maybe we don't necessarily have a future center fielder we're looking at, don't necessarily have a future shortstop we're looking at. Obviously Quan in left field, and then you're looking at, we don't know what DeLauder's going to be. We hope he ends up being good. We don't know what Laviolette's going to end up looking like. Obviously, we're probably 3-4 years away from even seeing him. So it's going to be interesting to see how these young guys develop and if they can be consistent pieces for this team this year and into the future.
Yeah, we don't really know what even this year looks like.
Right.
Anytime you lose 10 in a row, that's that 10-game losing streak. I think if, let's say that they end up missing the playoffs by, I don't know, let's say 2.5 or 3.5 games, you're going to directly look at that 10-game losing streak and say, you lost. That's just why you're not in the postseason.
And I agree with you on that, because I think you and I have talked about before, looking at series in like April, where let's say, they run into the Orioles and drop 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, whatever it might be. And we've talked about, you can look at that series if we don't make the playoffs. Like that I don't necessarily agree with, but when you put together a stretch like they did, where it's 10 straight, and like you said, miss the playoffs by 2.5, maybe even 3.5, 4.5, whatever it is, that's all in that 10-game streak. And that's, the worst baseball they've played all year. Worst baseball we've seen them play in over a decade.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2012. I want to say it was 2012 when they put together like that 12-game losing streak.
Right.
So we haven't seen them that poor for that stretch in really forever, what seems like. Definitely there was nobody on this current team, I don't even think on the staff, maybe outside of Sandy, that was actually part of that organization.
No, you're 100% right. He was still the first base coach back then. The one thing that I will say about the 10-game losing streak, too, is they scored 15 runs over the course of that entire streak. I mean, that is just putrid at the highest level, Just to go back to, 5-6 episodes again describing Austin Hedges, the whole team's offense was, quote, horrendable, end quote.
Oh, yeah.
It really was.
It was bad.
And so, the offense gets going a little bit here, but again, it's hard to evaluate. Did it get going, or is it a byproduct of the White Sox throwing minor league pitching out there?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument.
But let's give them their flowers. They scored 21 runs over 3 games in Houston. That's good pitching. That's good pitching. That's major league pitching.
Yeah.
That you smoked all around the ballpark. So it's really hard to evaluate them right now. Again, I'm not going to praise the hell out of them, because had you continued to lose after that 10-game losing streak, now we're talking about 2.5 months of baseball that are completely not worth watching to anybody. All you've done now, and to look at it from the way far away view, all you've done now, yes, thank you, that's the phrase I was looking for. Yeah. All you've done now to look at it from a bird's eye view, as Kevin so eloquently put for me, is make it worth watching for a few more weeks, is all you've done to the average fan.
Yeah, for the most part, because now you're starting to get the fans that see the 6 out of 7. It's like, okay, maybe they string together more after the All-Star break. They have a little bit of a break. Maybe they come back hot. And realistically, like they'll probably win 3 of the first 7 after the All-Star break or something like that.
Well, you better win more than that, because the schedule lightens up for you. I'm looking at it. Do you really want to convince me, as a diehard fan, that
I think that's what they're mainly concerned with.
I believe they are too. No, they're not. But anyway, if they want to convince me here that they're really serious, come back out of this break and sweep the A's at home. Do it. Go do it.
Yeah, there's really no excuse to not sweep the A's at home.
You took 2 out of 3 in the minor league park out there.
Is it a 3 or 4 game series?
3-game series.
Yeah, you got to take at least 2 against the A's here.
And we are going Sunday.
Yeah, we are going Sunday.
And I just want to make it, people are going to say, you said you wouldn't pay for tickets again this season. Remember, I did say that on this podcast. Just so everybody knows, that's still valid. I'll be attending for a cost of $0 on Sunday.
Yeah, they're your brother, friend of the show, Rob. They're his work tickets.
Yeah, his company tickets.
So
and, we will be enjoying a nice company picnic up there, and I'll make sure to eat as much as I can and milk Paul Dolan for everything he's worth, and eat a whole bunch of hamburgers, hot dogs, macaroni and cheese, whatever it may take. But I am looking forward to going again on Sunday. As of right now they lose those first 2, I'm going to be waking up on Sunday saying, ugh, I don't want to go.
Yeah, and it's going to be an ugly show. It's going to be an ugly show that drops next Thursday,
Yeah.
But I do want to say, I want to give a quick shout out, because I thought Matt Underwood had a hysterical line last week.
This is funny. Go on.
We were watching the game last week, and, Jerome's known for always making fun of Austin Hedges swinging and missing, right? He provides free air conditioning to the lucky fans in Progressive Field, stuff like that. So I'm watching the game as if you're a loyal listener, Jerome and I are roommates. Jerome's downstairs in the basement, swapping out some laundry, I want to say, and I was watching the Tribe game, and, Austin Hedges, it's an 0-2 count, and Matt Underwood is like mid-story. I forget what the story was about, but I just remember him. He interrupted himself, and he goes, "Sorry, Rick, I think I'm gonna have to finish this after the break. I just realized there's 2 outs, and it's an 0-2 count to Austin Hedges." And the next pitch was a swing and a miss outside the zone. And Matt Underwood just goes, "And we'll be right back."
That's
and
great.
And then he finished the story after he got back from break. But that's one of those times where I genuinely laughed out loud listening to Matt Underwood.
And I will say, they don't spend money on the field product, as we've hammered that point home. The giveaways, though, Kevin's wearing one tonight.
Yeah, I meant to wear this last week, but completely forgot because this was last Sunday's giveaway, the Hawaiian shirt. So I made sure to wear it this episode. But
It's a nice looking Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, we got down there. It was me and obviously a few of our college friends. Robbie Brenna, Kyle Haley, and then my sister's boyfriend Josh. The 6 of us went down there, got breakfast, and then we waited in line for like an hour and a half, and it was hot. Like we were sweating already getting into the stadium. So, but it was worth it. We got the shirts.
The Hawaiian shirt, the nicest takeaway, because that was the game that they went against Scooball. That was a disaster, huh?
Yeah, that was a tough game to be in attendance for because it seemed like it was just one of those. You know how you can leave a stadium after a loss and go, "There's no other team that blows that than a Cleveland team."
Yeah, that was one of those.
It was one of those. We were one strike away from winning 1-0, and then Clase throws one in the dirt. Naylor doesn't get in front of it well enough. It gets past them. Runner scores from third. They go to extras, and the Tribe lose. I want to say 7-2 or 7-1.
That was also, mind you, 10 of the 10.
Yeah, that was the last.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we went to that game thinking that they were due. They said, they lost 9 straight. They got to win one of these.
Oh, I had no faith in them to win that game.
Yeah.
They were going against Scooball.
Hey, they played well against Scooball in the past. I shouldn't say like
one time.
One
just
time.
Happened to be on the biggest stage.
In the most important game they've ever faced them in. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Lane Thomas.
All right, so we did mention that Jose won Player of the Week, so congratulations to him. Kevin, he will not. He was elected the starter for the third baseman tonight for the All-Star game again. We're recording this on Tuesday, so the All-Star game will get underway shortly after we're done recording here.
Yeah.
And Jose elected not to go, focus on his health and the stretch run in the second half. You have any problem with it?
No issue with it at all.
Okay.
When you've been to as many All-Star games as he has, I think you can afford to kind of have one off. If you just want a week with the family, who am I to blame you? You give another, let's say a young, I forget who ended up stepping in for him, but you give another player an opportunity to maybe make an All-Star game. I think it's just fine.
Well, that and even the last 2022 3 and 4. Not only did he do the All-Star game, he did the home run derby. Yep. So think about that. You're doing the derby on Monday, the game on Tuesday. You have maybe 2 nights off, Wednesday and Thursday.
Right.
So he has had no time the last 2 years at all. He's had no All-Star break per se. So I have zero problem with this too. Again, he's gotten that honor many times, and he's not. Jose Ramirez respects the game greatly. We know that. It's nothing against baseball or the All-Star game. I think it's just one of those things where he probably thought about, hey, I've had the home run derby, and the All-Star game back-to-back the last few years. Maybe I do want to just spend some time with the wife and kids, and maybe he had a chance to go back to the DR back home. I don't know if he did or didn't.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm right with you. I got no issue with it.
Yeah.
So, not a story, in my opinion.
No, but we talked about it.
Right. We just had to see, what we thought. Okay, I think that's about it for the Guardians. We'll have games to talk about next week again.
Yeah.
And, we did have a little bit this week.
And hopefully they come back strong from that All-Star break. I'm hoping they do. Well-rested,
yes.
rejuvenated. They're at home.
We need them. Look, I so much more enjoy doing shows where we have a little bit positive to say about them. Like
of course.
Those last 2 weeks, we don't enjoy doing that.
But we have to.
We have to.
Yes.
When you stink that bad,
right?
How could we, when we want to give our audience the truth, come on here and say anything positive about them?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, we basically did it for what, like 6-7 episodes straight during Brown season, probably, because we started this podcast a little bit over halfway through the year last year. I want to say
we started in September of 2024.
I want to say it was actually November. I want to say.
Oh.
Because it was pretty late because we covered that. I want to say it was like episode 4 episode 3, 4, or 5, we had covered the snow globe game, and that was like week 13 or 14.
Oh, maybe okay.
So I want to say it was like late November that we started this. So basically, we had nothing but bad Browns things to say other than that Steelers win.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't enjoy doing those. So Cleveland teams, do us a favor and win some games, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Let's touch on a couple Cavs points here and then odds and ends, and we are going to be on our way out of here. So let's start with Koby Altman extension until 2029, 2030. What do you think of this? I don't like how long it is.
You don't?
I don't. I get it. You got number one in the East, but the lack of postseason success to me, I would have preferred it to be a little bit shorter. Terms were a little long for me.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting extension because this guarantees that he's under contract unless obviously it gets terminated, which we know Dan Gilbert's not afraid to do. So we know he's under contract for at least the next 4 to 5 seasons. I will give Koby Altman credit though. He fell for we talked a lot about it last week's episode about the LeBron trades during Koby Altman's first year as general manager. And Koby Altman, I don't know how involved he was in those trade talks. I know he had the title of GM. We do think LeBron had a lot to do with that. But he came
a rookie GM versus LeBron. Koby Altman he had no say his rookie year.
Oh, no. 100. I agree with you. That would be my personal standpoint as well. I think it was probably 80-20, 80 in favor of LeBron making those decisions.
Absolutely.
And,
if not more.
LeBron, for our theory, kind of got him to trade away a first-round pick, make the Lakers situation better. LeBron joins the Lakers, whatever it is. Koby Altman refused to part with that Brooklyn Nets pick, if you remember. refused.
Which ultimately as the assistant GM, Koby was very upset, did not want to do that. It made the head GM, LeBron, very angry with him.
Yeah, no, but also if he deals, I agree with the standpoint that Koby Altman had. If you deal that Nets pick, which at the time was projected to be like a top 5 pick. It ended up being the 8th overall pick, Colin Sexton. But at the time was a projected top 5 overall pick. You go and you make a big move for a player to put next to LeBron, and LeBron leaves. Where does that leave the team? You could have never parted with that pick. Not that Colin Sexton was a game changer by any means, but he was the first piece of this rebuild, the first ever draft pick of Koby Altman as head GM. And then, the following year, everybody's saying, oh, we got to draft, a small forward. We got to do... Koby Altman didn't listen to anybody. He drafted Darius Garland, all-star point guard. If you would have listened to the fan base, you would have drafted Jarrett Culver, and he would have been out of the league in 2 years. 2020, now that's Isaac Okoro, but we got Lonzo Ball for him.
Right. He was able to trade one of the worst players in the entire association for a good player. Good for him.
Yeah, 2021, Evan Mobley, which, you can say what you want, about Evan Mobley. A lot of people think that was kind of a walk-in pick, almost like a Myles Garrett pick where you just kind of pick the obvious best player on the board. But, he makes the Donovan Mitchell trade. He takes that risk. He makes the DeAndre Hunter trade. There were a lot of trade deadlines that he stood pat that we did not agree with, but it may have been best for the team long term if he didn't believe that a Josh Hart was the glue to this team. Now, I think Josh Hart could have been, but then you go out and you get a DeAndre Hunter that fits in well with this team. He made the Jared Allen trade. He swooped in out of nowhere in the James Harden deal and just acquired Jared Allen.
Good move.
Out of nowhere. Great move. So there's a lot of moves that Koby Altman's made. Now, the playoff success, I agree with you. It's not there. I don't know how you get over that hump because I do think he's put together quite a good roster for not having a LeBron to attract these players. He's built a foundational team of homegrown talent. So I like the extension. Now I could see literally as early as 2 years, I could see it being completed in 2 seasons if the Cavs don't make a conference finals or a finals in general, depending on how Dan Gilbert views this team. I could see him being gone in 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Did you think it was too long, or? I know you kind of gave a lot of reasons why you did like it.
Why I defended it, yeah. So I will say, how long was the actual extension itself? Because I didn't see how long he was under contract for and then how many years were added on. I just saw that he's on the Bucks until 2029.
Yeah, I don't know how many years they added to it. I know it doesn't seem that long ago that he just got an extension, so maybe it wasn't tacking on that many years. I wish I knew that information.
Yeah, which honestly we probably should have looked up beforehand, but
that falls on both of us.
I'm okay with the contract, honestly, because there hasn't been a general manager that's been able to do anything here without LeBron since we've been watching basketball.
Right.
So I'm a fan of the Koby Altman extension.
Okay. Well, another thing we found out, we talked about it a lot last week. LeBron back to the Cavs. They were one of 4 teams that have been in contact with Rob Pelinka.
And Rich Paul.
Kevin, we mentioned that's what we would like them to at least do last week.
Was inquire about it.
So they've done that. Now where that goes from here, nobody knows. But what we've advised them to do, they've done.
Yeah.
Maybe, who the hell knows? Maybe one of our listeners are Rich Paul and Rob Pelinka. I highly doubt it, but hey.
Well, did you see that's actually a good transition into LeBron, because did you see when the Koby Altman extension was announced, LeBron had quoted it and shot out like a big congratulations.
Yes, I did.
And it was more so towards Brandon Weems, who he played high school basketball with, I think. But I saw a lot of people, Ben Axelrod was one of them, that tweeted, oh my gosh, another coincidental LeBron thing where he's quoting something Cavs related or tweeting something Cavs related or just mentioning the Cavs.
We will see.
Being all cryptic. So it is going to be interesting, like I said last week, and I'll say it again. If it means Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and like DeAndre Hunter, like please God, do not do that trade, because I don't see Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and LeBron James, just the 3 of them basically. I don't see them competing for a championship.
Yeah, we disagreed on that last week. If you want to go back, and we're not going into it tonight.
Right.
We went deep dive into that last week. Episode 36.
Yeah.
For you. Check that out.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, it's time for
Odds and Ends.
That's right. All right. Well, the big dumper continues to just dominate.
Cal Raleigh.
He has won the home run derby after hitting 38 first half home runs. It was interesting. I did not get a chance to see it. I was driving last night back from out of town. But I saw overall people seemed happy with the home run derby. I saw O'Neal Cruz of Pittsburgh hit a 513-foot home run. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But nobody was as good as
the big dumper.
That's right. The big dumper wins the home run derby. And, dude, I know Aaron Judge is phenomenal, but a guy like this who hits from both sides of the plate, man, the big dumper, he may not win it. He's going to get some MVP
and
votes.
as a catcher,
he's going to get some MVP votes.
Yeah, I think he is too. And I think you can make an argument that he's the most deserving of the MVP, honestly.
I agree. And the big dumper plays great defense, too.
He's a great defender. Great defender, switch hitter, an amazing hitter. I mean, he's like the complete package. And the fact that he plays catcher of all positions and he's doing this, when you struggle to find a catcher that can bat, 220 plus, like, dude, unbelievable.
Like, he, to me, all around, is probably the Mariners' best player. Like, he's better than Julio now, in my opinion.
I would say he's more valuable than Julio for sure right now.
Absolutely.
I think the only thing that Julio truly gives you that's better than Cal Raleigh right now is the base running.
Speed. Yeah.
I think that's basically it. And obviously that's why he plays catcher and Julio Rodriguez plays center field.
Right.
That's why, is because of that speed. But I would argue in every other aspect that Cal Raleigh's a better baseball player, Jerome. I agree with you.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Another odds and ends thing. Talk about some positive Ohio State news. Garrett Wilson, big-time extension with the Jets, and not Ohio State, but also State of Ohio, out of the University of Cincinnati Bearcats. Shout out to Derek. Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner.
Highest paid player in the league.
Well, highest paid corner.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I almost gave misinformation there.
No, you're good. Yeah, highest paid corner. I saw 4 years, a little bit over $120 million total over those 4 years. I think the funniest, I shouldn't say funniest, but I think maybe I'll say funniest. The funniest thing about this is last year, Pat Surtain wins Defensive Player of the Year, and the Broncos give him that mega extension, and he was the highest paid corner in the league when he had signed. That was a year ago. He's 5th on that list now.
That's crazy. And
in just a year's time, I think it's so important to get out in front of these contracts because of how much they appreciate in value.
Oh my! And everybody, these guys are all buddies off the field, but they keep tabs and they don't miss a beat, and they all want to beat each other. Yep. Why do you think TJ Watt doesn't have a contract with the Steelers right now?
Because he thinks he's better than Myles Garrett.
He's trying to beat Garrett. And it doesn't even matter if it's $500,000, Kevin. They just want to beat them.
Yeah, and I think it's just crazy how much these contracts appreciate over time. Like, for example, like I'll kind of relate this back to NBA. You know, I remember when after the Cavs won the championship and they signed LeBron to that it was a 3-year, $100 million extension, I want to say, with a player option, and it only ended up being 2 years because he opted out.
That's
but
nothing.
3 years, $100 million. You fast forward less than 10 years, you know, that was a $33 million annual cash value, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 70.5. He's over doubled it in less than 10 years.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable how these contracts appreciate.
Crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
honestly, I can't believe I can believe Sauce got this, but like last year was his worst year in the league.
Yeah, I think the Jets are just so desperate to keep talent on that team. You know, they gave that money to Justin Fields. They're trying to do something there. I think they're just desperate to keep this talent there. If I were the Jets, I actually probably would have looked at trading him, to be honest.
I would have thought about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's podcast. You can follow us on the socials. We are available for your interest and joy, hopefully, at X and TikTok and Instagram at CLE Sports Realm. And we're there, and we like to interact with you guys and stuff like that. And
you can watch and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll do it for this week's program. Thanks again for tuning into the CSR. We'll talk to you guys next week. Derek, great job by you. Kevin, good job by you. I'm
Thanks.
Jerome. We'll talk to everybody next week. And enjoy your week, and go Guardians.
Go Tribe.